But when you cease to obey, you cease being the salt that has flavor. And when it loses its taste, what point is it except to be thrown out? I never want to be in a position where God is like, the problem with you is you're not ready to be used by me. You're so focused on the world, on the views. You're so focused on how this person perceives you that you cannot stand up when I say stand. Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Okay guys, I feel like it's been so long since I actually came onto this channel. I know it's not been that long, but I just feel like it has been. I feel like I've been neglecting you guys, and it's crazy. First of all, just thank you so much for the new subscribers that joined. Hope you stay, and for the ones that have been here, thank you so much for sticking around. And we are back again with a new season, as we always are. So actually today I wanted to be a bit more relaxed because it's just going to be like an update as well as, you know, like a little bit of encouragement, if I can put it that way. So the first huge announcement is that I'm actually continuing with Moves by Stories. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Nomta or Ilo, whatever feels comfortable for you. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for sticking around. So I'm back again on my podcast streak. I'm not promising many guests really, but I think I'm promising dedication to coming and showing up as consistently as I possibly can. And consistency to me looks like once a week. Okay, so if you could please share your testimonies in the link in my description box, so that every new episode we read one out and kind of talk about it and, you know, dive into the topic of the day and encourage someone out there, because that is the whole point of Move by Stories, guys. So for this week, I know that I just wanted us to like bask in the glory of understanding your mission, your calling, or what you call it, your purpose. And I think this is such a big, broad topic that most people are afraid of. And so my focus is going to be on comparison, and it's just like being careful of that really. So when I think of purpose, I think so many times we look at people that we think are fulfilling purpose. So like people that are doing so well for themselves. Practical examples, people that are your age and have made it. You've got someone in your mind, I can imagine. And so I think when you look at comparison, sometimes we forget that it's just like, it's not enough to look at people, and whenever you try to think of a dream, you feel like, oh, it's already been done by somebody else, and so there's no room for me to thrive in this. I think the problem that we go through as Christians, as well as just like as young people, as it pertains to like inventing something, is first of all feeling like this thing already exists, and also just thinking, what makes me think I can do it like in a good way. And I think of social media applications. I mean, there was YouTube, there was Instagram, there was Facebook, but still somebody found a niche and said, I'm going to do TikTok. And I know that these are like slightly different, but they still basically require social engagement. And it's like, you would have thought people would have given up after WhatsApp came through, or, you know, after Facebook or whatever. But it's like, it's the same thing, just dressed differently. And so for me, that just reminds me how much we can still use the same ideas in a very different way. And it's just like, oh, actually, if you use your uniqueness within the old field that already exists, instead of trying so hard to be different. Because the other thing is, we are different. Like, you don't have to try. You actually are different. The moment you stop trying to look at what everyone else is doing, you will see that actually when you do something, even if it was the same task, you will complete it differently. That's how in school we get different grades, because even though it was the same exact question, people don't respond the same way. So now that I've cleared that, hopefully given you clarity, I was actually thinking of the example in the Bible. You know, there's 4 gospels, right? So imagine if Matthew said, I'm not going to write because I think John's writing, and John was the beloved. So who am I to speak if John's going to speak? But actually Matthew wrote in his own way, because these 4 apostles, they had different rooms, and like they had different things that they focused on in terms of just like them being writers, you know. So the one of them was a doctor, one of them a tax collector, one of them the beloved, you know, like they had different perspectives of how everything happened, though they still share the truth. And there's sometimes where you feel like you need a John in your life, where you feel like you need Mark, where you feel like you need different parts of that story to kind of understand and adapt it to your own current situation. And imagine if they didn't do that because they thought it already exists. So in the same way, like I say this so much because that's what I felt. I felt like I want to start a podcast, but at the same time, I didn't want to be every other girl, because like I was like, every girl is doing a podcast, I don't want to do this. But then it's like, if that's what I'm being called to, I think more than trying to be so creative and dramatic, the first call to any believer is obedience. And I think I am learning to walk in that. So obedience means, even if it to you doesn't make sense, just do it. Even if it feels like, well, that's a typical answer, this has been said to so many people, why would I say it again? Just do it. I think I have this story, I don't know if I've already shared it on this podcast before, but I remember when I did my first spoken word piece, the one I posted here, the one I did at Life Church Bradford. And I remember the initial time that I asked to speak, when they asked me to write the script, I thought that they wanted to use the script without me involved. And actually, I was talking to my friends that time, and I was telling them like, oh guys, I think they want to just like use my script and they don't want me to be the one who performs it. At that time I was worried, thinking they're not going to like the proposal, thinking, oh, this is going to be like a bit of a mess, and they want to use me kind of. And because it was such a big church, I just probably had a lot of inferiority of like, God, I know you sent me here, but I'm a bit confused. Do you think I actually have a chance? And so when they actually said, so the point that I wanted to emphasize was the creative pastor coming back to me to say, hey, actually, just to clarify, the reason I need your script is because I'm just wanting them to have the words in case you need to read on the day. And I was like, huh? Like, it was such a shocking moment because I don't think I had imagined myself speaking. I had just been following my obedience steps of like, God said, right, I've written, I've done this, the next step, And so and the reason we say God said, for somebody who's wondering, is not because we think we are closer to God than anyone else. I think the reason I'm starting to kind of like get comfortable with God said is that there's steps that I take in obedience to my trusting that God speaks to me. God is talking, and whenever it works out, it confirms that, yeah, he did. So most of the times that I'm going to say God said is because it actually worked out. So I can be like, okay, I heard him correctly. Whereas like I'm a bit skeptical when it hasn't happened, because I'm like, I am walking in the faith that it did work out. But if it doesn't work out, I never associate God with a lie, because he's not a liar. So I try to kind of like use it in past tense. In present tense, yes, that's the faith I'm walking in, where I feel like God said this to me. But if it doesn't work out, I can always understand that maybe my heart got the better of me, because the word of God says, the heart is deceitful, who can know it? So I kind of come with that humility of feeling like I cannot, confirm in the present, but I can confirm in past tense. So that's why I'm speaking like that, because of how it turned out. And I was looking back and I was like, God, that is so huge, Anyways, guys, the reason I'm bringing it up was just like the intentionality of that creative pastor to actually come and like clarify that piece of information at church right after service, because he had actually said hi and bye. And so like him following up on me was like, God literally told him that, hey bro, can you just go and tell her that it's fine? And so to me, I just feel like those tiny steps that you would be like, God, but doesn't she get it? I told her already, like, why would I go and have a second conversation? But he, because he was under Christ, was able to actually be subject to God and be like, okay, nonetheless, if you want me to say it again, I'm going to say it again. And that actually boosted my mood for the whole night, because now I was clear on the fact that actually I was going to talk. And so when I think of this, I just want to encourage somebody who's sat there in their home and thinking, I don't have something new to contribute. Like I see the same problem that everyone else sees, and I don't know if I can make a difference. I don't know if I'm the difference I want to see. I just want to encourage you to step out and do it, regardless of the fact that somebody else is already doing it. There is no way that you can copy and paste exactly. Like, it's not practical. Like, you're gonna add your touch. Nobody else is like you. Nobody talks like you. Nobody thinks as you do. Like, there might be similarities here and there, but there's definitely a different way that you're gonna execute something that you're passionate about. Be it a podcast. Even if you start a podcast right now, you're not gonna say what I said. Like, you're gonna sound like you. You're gonna associate your values, your beliefs, your whatever. And so I want you to walk out of this conversation feeling very much empowered, so very much ready to actually start doing things without having to compare yourself. As a speaker, I always like try to look at people that I'm like fascinated by, and I'm like, oh, I can never be this person, I can never be this person. And then God started to reveal to me that it's not about that. Like, I am called to minister. Like, the purpose of what I do is what should matter more than who I sound like and how flamboyant other people sound like. My desire is to make sure that a message is heard and understood, and if that is happening, then I'm doing my job. So firstly, understanding the intention behind what you're doing before trying so hard to outbeat the best in the market or whatever. Like with spoken word, for example, I just realized that it wasn't something that I could control or try. Every time I tried to overperform, I lost meaning. And so I remember going for this workshop when I was at the big church poetry slam, and genetics was there, and she was like training us, and she was like, no, I don't believe you. Like, you don't sound like you mean what you're saying. Like, and she really was emphasizing the core of like going back and digging deep to understand, like, who am I talking to? Like, what is the emotion that I'm attaching to this piece? Is it just like words I'm reading out, or is there more to it? And so I feel like we get stuck in performance so many times that we lose purpose and meaning of what we're doing and why we're doing certain things. And I think that when you come back and ground yourself and remind yourself, like, the reason I'm doing this is because ultimately I want to help young people, right? That ceases to become a God in your life. You don't just like look at it and think, oh, I'm trying to actually impress these many people. It becomes a thing of like you understanding that I'm called to this. And I think the core of it is obedience. So obedience to me looks like the parable of the 10 talents, right? I'm going to bring out my Bible today, but when the master comes back and that guy's like, oh, I've done 10, they increase even more for him. The other one who's done 5, they say add 5 more to him. But the one who still has the 1 and he's like, oh, I feared you because you're such an austere man. I didn't want to disturb you. I didn't want to like, bother you. That one, unfortunately for him, the master was so upset, was like, why did you not at least invest it or something? You knew I was scary and you still chose to do nothing. That's going to cost you. Out of your own mouth will I judge you. That's literally how the master responds. And so for me, like, it's like sometimes there's this fear of like, oh, am I really ready to do this? What if I get embarrassed? And then that fear is overcome by the thought that that's how that servant felt. He was fearful of using his talent and it was taken away from him. And it's like, it's not beyond God to replace you. I think that to me has really stood out. And so understanding that makes me be able to do what I do more in obedience than in performance. So there's things that I want to learn. There's a lot that I can upgrade and improve on. But whilst I'm still learning, I don't want to be replaced because I was too shy, too scared, I don't want to be too vulnerable. Like, oh God, there's other people that are better than me. I never want to be in a position where God is like, the problem with you is you're not ready to be used by me. You're so focused on the world, on the views. You're so focused on how this person perceives you that you cannot stand up when I say stand. And when you cease to obey, you get removed. Think about, I don't know how many of us are watching Copper's Lodge, but really, the mother-in-law in Copper's Lodge said something that really stood out to me, because she said to her daughter, like, yes, you for once got confirmation about this guy, but it's possible that now he's no longer that guy. And it's not beyond God to replace people, because the same God who said, arise and anoint Saul, said, I have rejected Saul, and now it's going to be David. And so I think that's how it is. Like, so many times we get comfortable in this, oh, I'm sure God called me to this. But when you cease to obey, you cease being the salt that has flavor. And when it loses its taste, what point is it except to be thrown out? And so I really want you to like think of it like that. When you think of doing what you've been called to do, pursuing what God has actually allowed you to be able to do. There are people who can't do what you can do, who wish they could. Like, who are like, if I only had a voice, I'd speak all day, you know? And you're out there thinking, oh, but I think mine's a bit squeaky. And it's like, it can be gone. It can be taken away. So I think when you start appreciating what has been given to you, understanding that it can be taken away, understanding that you can be replaced. Like, you're not invincible. Like, if you're not doing what you've been called to do, it can be taken away from you. Just like the servant with the talent, he lost that one talent and it was given to the person who was actually investing. Anyways, guys, I didn't want to keep this long, but towards the end, if you have stuck around till the end, I think I'm going to say this, which I'm hoping that I can also put at the start of the video, maybe. So I'm trying to do something very interesting for this next series of Moved by Stories episodes. I do not know if I'm going to get guests, but I was thinking what is more interesting is if you guys can share your testimonies onto this platform. So you can just share them privately on the link which is going to come directly to me. And the lucky winners, not the lucky winners, to be honest, I'm probably going to read all of them because we're still a young community. So I think it wouldn't be beyond me to actually be able to use all your stories. So please do share if you have a testimony that you feel like will encourage someone else. I think so many times we're scared to talk about our testimony, but it actually builds people up. It actually increases people's faith. It actually helps them to grow. So if you're not comfortable with your name being shared when I read them out, do say anonymous or whatever the case. But if you could please share your testimonies in the link in my description box, so that every new episode we read one out and kind of talk about it and, you know, dive into the topic of the day and encourage someone out there, because that is the whole point of Move by Stories, guys. So I'm looking forward to that. So please do, if you have any form of testimony, literally like look into your life and you will see how good God has been to you. And there's no testimony too small. And trust me, I am so excited to actually build that community where we can share these stories and actually be more like a two-way, where actually you tell me something and I come back and I'm like, oh, this is my feedback on that. So do please share your stories on in the description below so that I can read at least one out. Come on, guys, come on. You know, that would be so amazing. I look forward to that, and also see you guys in the next episode of Move by Stories. But I really hope this moved you away from just being complacent and letting life pass you by. It's time to get up and do what you can with what you have. What do you have? This poet really said, what you have is enough. What you don't have is an excuse. Like, you've been given everything you need for this moment right now, and so just utilize it and trust God. Love you guys. See you again next time, but for now, bye.